Yo, what's up, chat? So today's video, we're gonna not video stream. We're gonna be watching 10 disturbing interviews with school shooting survivors. Let's get straight into the video, bro. The frick.
My name is Lance Kirkland. I was shot 5 times at Columbine High School.
Whoa. 5 times, bro. As soon as we start the video, I got shot 5 times, bro. You had invincibility right there, bro.
Sustained wounds in my face, my neck, my chest.
Why is it?
And my arms, a total of 24 shotgun pellets.
And then he kind of makes his way, like he shoots in like a, kind of going clockwise. See like my classmates who I saw 12 minutes ago, they're dead.
April 20th, 1999, Columbine survivor.
That was 25 years ago? 24 years ago. 24 is 2000. Yeah, 25. I forgot it's 2025, bro.
Lance Kirkland was shot 5 times during that infamous school shooting. Now, while much attention has been given to the story of the shooters, in this interview, Lance shared his harrowing account.
So this video, this kid had an escape route for every class if there was a school shooting. I have the same thing, bro. Bro. Make windows. Because in my school, we don't have windows. If our school gets shot up, bro, I'm busting down a window. And I'm running.
Detailing the traumatic events of that day that altered the course of his life forever. And just like Lance, here are the most disturbing interviews with school shooting survivors.
Why is it so laggy?
April 16th, 2007, 23-year-old South Korean senior at Virginia Tech, Sung-Wi Cho, armed himself with 2 semi-automatic pistols and headed to the West Ambler Johnston's Hall dormitory, where he shot a fellow student, Emily Hilscher, and the resident assistant, Ryan Clark, on the building's 4th floor.
So at 7:05 that morning on campus, our shooter walked from his dorm into a different dorm, her dorm, shot a girl and her resident advisor. Both were killed on the scene.
Cho somehow managed to escape the scene. He returned to his dorm, changed out of his bloody clothes, and cleared his computer. Shortly before 9 a.m., he mailed a package from the downtown Blacksburg post office to NBC News in New York. The package contained videos, writings, and photographs detailing his motivation for the shooting. Then, carrying a 9mm Glock, a
You recorded what you were about to do, bro. Nah.
.22 caliber Walther pistol, and a backpack full of ammo. Cho walked down to Norris Hall and chained the 3 entrances from inside.
So our shooter chained the doors from the inside, and it's horrible, absolutely horrible. He chained the doors. He wrote a note that said, if you try to break in, a bomb will go off.
He proceeded to the building's 2nd floor, took his stance at a strategic spot, and began the shooting.
Right then, he walked in just seconds after. There's absolutely no time to think or to duck or to take cover, and people just kind of fell to the floor.
That was one survivor.
Let me exit out of this. This is pretty annoying.
Christina Anderson, who was in room 206, the first classroom Cho attacked. He shot and killed the professor, G.V. Laganathan, and about 10 students in that class alone. Another survivor who witnessed that shooting is Avery Haynes.
And he went across the room and just literally went down there was people and just shot everyone individually, one by one. Multiple rounds were fired into each individual.
Whoa, wait. I'm on HD. That is why. Turn it down like 480, bro.
But
things happened so fast that she couldn't even duck.
My eyes were closed, but I could hear and I could smell and I could sense, because the force was kind of going towards me, that I said to myself, brace yourself, your turn is going to come. And I kind of...
And unfortunately, she got shot.
He shot me in the back the first time while he was in the other rooms. No one in our room is moving, because everyone but one person is already wounded. People are coughing. It's, you know, the smell of gunpowder. It's a very small space.
Both Christina and Haynes tried playing dead as Cho left their classroom.
When he was in our class, I remember trying not to breathe very much, so he couldn't tell I was alive. Because as my stomach was hitting the chair, I was thinking, you know, he can see me breathing, he can see me alive, and that was very scary.
In the next room he entered, Cho murdered the French instructor, Jocelyn Couture Nowak, and 11 students.
I was in Norris Hall, which is the place of the second shooting, and he came into our class, shot the person that was sitting next to me, shot our professor.
But if there's no windows in my classroom, you know what I'd be doing, bro. I'm grabbing a chair. I'm pushing him out the way, kicking him in the walls, taking his gun, shooting him 4 times in the back. There's not 4 bullets. Do it like right, like the lung.
Then I hid under the desk, and then he proceeded to shoot everybody else in our class, practically. There were probably 15 to 20 people in our class, and he shot maybe 10 to 15 of them.
That was Derek Odell, another student who survived Cho's deadly massacre.
Be calm, but obviously this must have been terrifying, and you're very shaken up.
Yeah, it was... nothing can describe this. I mean, something that you would never imagine in life.
After leaving room 211, Cho returned.
They were in like college, right? They were probably about to leave college.
To room 206 and shot at Avery Haynes a second time.
And I was trying to hold my stomach in to pretend like I was dead, and he shot above my head, which was incredibly scary looking back now, because I looked up and I looked at the wall and I saw where the bullet hole was.
To make matters worse, he returned a third time, targeting Avery again as she lay bleeding on her desk.
He left for a third time. He came back again, so he came in 3 times, and in that time he shot me 3 times. So twice in the back and then once in the toe.
After shooting for about 9 minutes, Cho turned the gun on himself and pulled the trigger.
They got in. He killed himself when he heard police, and he killed himself in front of our classroom. So he killed 12 people in my classroom, including our teacher.
In total, Cho killed 32 people and wounded 17 others, marking this as the worst school shooting ever in the U.S.
He never said a single word. He never said anything when he walked in or during. I mean, this was a planned attack. He knew what he was out to do, and unfortunately, the intention was to injure as many people as possible.
Cho may be dead, but his actions have left hundreds of people scarred, both physically and mentally.
I don't know if I can ever go back to that classroom. I mean, the other classes, it might be different, but that classroom, it would just bring back to me bad memories.
Survived the shooting of Virginia Tech in 2007, and now I'm having to survive it again in 2019. You know, in a whole nother way.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
That's so fun. Coolest plugin I ever used. Arcade. It's used by the top artists and producers in the game. You can chop samples.
To me, I mean, a gunman shooting people.
If I'm not making money out of an ad, we're not watching it.
Without saying anything, just seems like his intent to kill is just irrational.
He asked our religions and shot the Christians in the head because he thinks the earth is evil and he didn't want us to suffer on earth.
Around 10:30 a.m. on October 1st, 2015, a 26-year-old student of Umpqua Community College in Oregon entered a public speaking classroom and began shooting.
You could hear everyone breathing hard and freaking out and crying, and he asked everyone to move to the center of the classroom.
The student was identified as Chris Harper Mercer, and his first target was a professor whom he shot and killed at point.
Bro is cooked. His hairline, he doesn't have one. He's cooked.
blank range.
He sounded really deranged because he said that he had been waiting to do that for a really long time, and he laughed.
He laughed?
He laughed after he shot the teacher.
And it just so happened that one bullet would hit her, although she didn't immediately feel the pain due to the adrenaline. Now, after Harper Mercer stopped to reload his gun, he stood in front of Anastasia, calling her blonde girl and demanding she get up from the ground. But out of fear, Anastasia had to play dead while hoping he wouldn't shoot at her again.
And when you were shot, and are you thinking that you might not make it out of that room?
Yeah, I didn't think I was gonna make it.
After a few more minutes, he asked all the students in that classroom to gather in the center where he began shooting them one after the other based on their religion.
The first kid that he asked that was a boy. When he said that he was religious and he said he was Christian, he didn't hesitate at all.
And if you're wondering why, well, here's his reason.
Yeah, the shooter said that he would only feel the pain for a couple of seconds and that he would be with God soon, and then he shot him.
For more context, Harper's profile on the dating website Spiritual Passions listed him as not religious, looking for a similarly non-religious woman. Also, he was a part of a group on that website called Doesn't Like Organized Religion. So, it's pretty clear where his mind was during the shooting. But the next thing he did was just as troubling because as he went down the line, shooting every religious student, he spared one kid's life by handing him an envelope with a flash drive inside.
He said, "The kid in the glasses, get up, I need you to do me a favor. Today's your lucky day." And hands him this business envelope.
Contained on this drive was Harper Mercer's motive for the shooting, some of which were the facts that he had no friends, no job, no girlfriend, and was also a virgin. Looks like Mr. Mercer just might have been the biggest loser ever. And if you're wondering why he
I agree with the guy who's talking right now.
didn't just hand the drive over to the authorities, well, it's because Harper eventually shot and killed himself. But even with his death, Anastasia couldn't believe her eyes when she saw the massive damage Harper Mercer had caused.
I heard that one kid in my class say that he was dead, he's dead, he's shot in the head, everything's okay. And that's when I opened my eyes, and I didn't want to open my eyes. I did, and looked around the classroom, and it was horrible. It was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
She had to undergo surgery to remove a bullet lodged in her spine. And during that interview with ABC, she shared the trauma of that day, and it still haunts her.
She got paralyzed? Ooh, bro. I don't even want to think about being paralyzed, bro. I hope one day they can find a way to fix being paralyzed. Bro, just thinking of you can't move, you can't eat by yourself, you can't live by yourself. You have to be around someone 24/7.
As she sometimes even recalls the smell of gunpowder.
When I close my eyes and I'm really close to falling asleep, I can hear the gunshots, and I can smell it.
And thanks to Harper Mercer's ridiculous motive, this young woman might just be traumatized for life.
Every day is special, and you never know when something's gonna happen.
Yo, shout out to everybody in this video. I hope they live the safe rest of their life, bro. I hope, bro.
So while we were in there, we did hear gunfire, lots of gunfire outside. We heard gunfire and screams outside while we were hiding.
In 1999, Heather Martin was a senior at Columbine High School, Colorado, when a mass shooting occurred. The perpetrators, 12th grade students Eric Harris and Dylan
Two of them look zesty as heck. I bet they're gay.
Claybold tragically left 15 people dead, including themselves, and injured around 20 others. They both planned the attack for over a year.
A year? Oh my gosh, man.
Arming themselves with explosives and
How do you get explosives? Did you just never mind.
multiple guns. They had planned to blow up the school's cafeteria and other distinctive points with makeshift bombs. But when they failed to detonate, Harris and Claybold decided to hold the entire school hostage. Now, Heather was in the school's choir office with 15 other students when the shooting began.
So first a student came running up the stairs and they said, someone's got a gun downstairs and they're shooting. And so we all stand up and, the teacher's like, sit down. And so we kind of sit back down and then the gunfire erupts outside the door.
What these students didn't realize was that if those bombs actually detonated, more than 488 students would have been killed and the entire school building would have been crushed, potentially harming Heather and her colleagues in that choir office.
So everybody just kind of ran if they could get out, and for whatever reason I didn't run. I think I was just in shock or trying not to overreact.
But to their luck, none of that happened, and Heather, along with her classmates, were able to secure themselves by using a teacher's desk to block the entrance door. This office was adjacent to the school's library, where Dylan and Harris killed a few students. They blasted shots at random people, including one student named Casey Johnson, who was shot in the arm.
Right before I was shot, I turned around to see him about 5 feet behind me, pointing the gun at the boy who was hiding.
Is that what you really want, son? No matter how many people you kill, you can't change what's happened.
Hiding behind me.
Now Casey was headed to the library to read a magazine when a teacher raised an alarm about a student having a gun in school. As Casey tried fleeing in the opposite direction, one of the shooters was set to be headed. She was brutally shot in the arm and had to fake being dead.
And he shot me, started yelling at me, and I really needed him to think he could move on from me, so I quit breathing and played dead.
In the end, SWAT arrived at the school and there was an intense gun battle. Dylan and Harris took their fight.
I have a friend. He can slow down his heart and just hold his breath. It's really cool. But also really useful.
Final shots, but this time their guns were aimed at each other. They killed themselves.
I've talked to my sister since then, and my sister was a freshman. That when I walked up the driveway, that she came out to run and hug me, and that I was just a shell of a person.
For Heather, the shock of what she went through keeps traumatizing her to this day.
I eventually dropped out of college. I developed an eating disorder to try to sort of gain that control back.
Bro. Sometimes there's people who stress eat.
Started using drugs. I'm lucky that they weren't addictive. It was just sort of recreational drugs that weren't hard for me to stop using.
Some of you may be thinking for something that happened years back, she should have been over it, right? Well, if that's your line of thought, then you really don't understand PTSD, and Heather just couldn't do it without therapy.
I did go into therapy for about a month and a half. It really helped me just because they gave me permission to feel traumatized.
And as for Casey, she risked the possibility of losing her arm.
The doctor couldn't have saved my arm without the donation. The young donor whose bone I was given to save my arm, her family gave a great gift.
Thankfully, both women are doing well for themselves, with Heather ironically becoming a teacher.
That I think I always wanted to be a teacher. I went back and I found my old yearbook. My senior English teacher said, "I hope you major in English and become a teacher because your students would love you."
The trauma might be gone, but the memory, sadly, it's there for life.
Almost instantly, I called 911 just out of instinct. They couldn't hear me over the sound of the gunshots. It was so incredibly loud.
February 14th, 2018, Nicholas Jacob Cruz shot and killed.
The fact that it was 2018, that was what, 7 years ago? 7 plus 18. Bro, it was like 7 years ago.
17 people at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, turning a day of love into a day of unimaginable sorrow. One survivor of the shooting, Aliyah Eastman, told Megyn Kelly of Today what exactly happened that morning.
Was wrong?
Well, there was high security because students were smoking in the restrooms that day, but nobody thought anything of it.
And then around 2:15 p.m., she and her classmates heard the first round of gunshots. This video was retrieved from the school surveillance camera showing the exact moment
Didn't he shoot someone in like the leg?
crews entered a stairwell adjacent to classrooms and assembled an AR-15 style semi-automatic rifle. One student, Christopher McKenna, entered right behind him, but crews spared his life, telling him to run as he went on to carry out his sinister plan. After killing his first 3 victims, crews shot through the windows of 4 classrooms, claiming the lives of 6 more students and wounding 13 others.
And at first I thought it was a prank because it was Valentine's Day, and I thought it was a paintball gun because I saw red on the floor. But it was blood and it wasn't a prank.
And according to the testimony of some other students, everything happened so fast.
There's a glass panel on our door. He opened fired at the door from the inside the hallway, through the door, and just started spraying through the door.
Here's a real-time video capturing exactly what it sounded like.
Holy.
Oh my God!
Were you?
Bro, the fact that people have phones. Give your kid a phone when they're 5 or when they're first getting to school. At least 2nd grade.
Praying? What was going through your head?
I just immediately thought that he was coming inside, so I told myself I need to look like I'm dead as well.
To play dead, Aliyah had to hide beneath a classmate who had already been shot. And even more disturbing is the fact that the gunshot's echoes triggered the fire alarm, causing confusion, since there had been a fire drill earlier that day. Students couldn't take cover in hard corners, which are safe spots in classrooms designed for such incidents, because most classrooms lacked one. Also, a code red alert wasn't immediately called because school staff were unsure who had the authority to do so. And it wasn't until a few minutes later that staff finally initiated a lockdown. One armed Broward County officer was present and immediately called for backup. But before they could arrive, crews killed 2 staff members near the 1st floor stairwell before moving to the 2nd floor, where he fired into 2 unoccupied classrooms. On the 3rd floor, he would shoot and kill 5 students and another staff member in the hallway, injuring 3 more students and 1 teacher. He then entered a teacher's lounge and unsuccessfully tried to shoot through the hurricane-resistant windows to target people outside. Now, after his weapon possibly jammed, crews abandoned the rifle on the 3rd floor and escaped by mingling with the fleeing students. Crews managed to evade the SWAT team and escape into the city. But if you're curious about how he was eventually captured, stay tuned, because I'll talk about that in a moment.
Rome was in the attack. He was in the arts classroom when the shooter aimed at these young students, and he was struck in the back of the head.
Schubert might just be the toughest guy in Santa Fe, Texas. This kid got shot at the back of his head, shrugged it off like it was a mosquito bite, and kept on moving like nothing happened. Rome Schubert was shot by 17-year-old Dimitrios Pagurtzis during the Santa Fe High School shooting back in May 2018. 2 months earlier in March, Pagurtzis logged on to LuckyGunner.com and purchased 50 rounds of .38 special ammunition and 105 rounds of 12-gauge shotgun ammunition. 2 weeks later, he would buy another 35 rounds of 12-gauge shotgun.
Bro, that's like $400.
Ammo, and in both instances, Pagurtzis didn't need to provide proof of age since he used an American Express gift card. He used his real name and address for shipment, and both orders were approved and shipped through FedEx, even though he declined the adult signature requirement. Now, on the day of the shooting, Pagurtzis entered an art class and fired his weapon while singing "Another One Bites the Dust" by the rock band Queen. I mean, this guy was in his own dark musical, or maybe he just wanted to turn the song's lyrics into a reality. But anyway, Rome Schubert was one of the students unlucky enough to get shot at. But in his case, he survived by a miracle. You see, after Schubert got shot, he didn't feel a thing and just kept running until another student pointed out he was bleeding.
I saw some blood on me, came up behind me and said, "You've been shot," and I thought it was somebody else's blood. And so I just took my shirt off and put pressure to it and just took off to the parking lot.
The bullet passed through the lower part of his neck and left him unharmed. Even doctors say that he might have not survived if it was an inch deeper.
Bullet came in there and it went.
And you can see the exit wound.
There's the exit wound.
Right there, and he was able to get up and run out. Didn't know that he'd even been struck.
While Schubert was rushed to the hospital, Pogortsis carried on his attack. However, Santa Fe ISD police officers eventually arrived on campus, and after an intense gun battle, Pogortsis surrendered. He had killed 8 students, 2 teachers, and shot 13 others, leaving them wounded. As for Rome Schubert, his parents got worried after hearing about that shooting. Little did they know that their son had taken a bullet like it was nothing.
When you first
I hope that guy rots in jail for the next rest of his life.
laid eyes on him in the hospital?
I just started bawling, crying. I walked in the room and I just laid my head on his chest and I just was like, thank you, God.
As for Pogortsis, 3 experts found him unfit to stand trial. And as of February 2024, he was in custody at the North Texas State Hospital. Nonetheless, the real highlight of this story is that just after coming so close to losing his life, Rome went out less than 24 hours later to do what he knows how to do best.
And the day after the shooting, he played baseball.
So he shot me 4 times, and I blacked out, and then woke up sensing that somebody was behind me, and I could see their shadow. And I put my hand up to ask for help, and he said, "Sure, I'll help you." And I looked up a little bit, and he didn't grab my hand. And so I just laid back down, and he put the shotgun right behind my ear and pulled the trigger.
Lance Kirkland isn't just a survivor. This guy's a fighter, because he literally fought to stay alive after getting shot 5 times during the Columbine High School shooting. April 20th, 1999, Kirkland and 2 friends walked outside the cafeteria for a quick cigarette break. Although his buddies Danny Robo and Sean Graves didn't smoke, the 3 of them still met at lunch every day for a small talk. However, on that fateful day, things would change, because as they were standing outside for a few minutes, they heard a laugh from a concrete stairway above them, followed by the sound of gunshots.
We walked out, and we heard fireworks, and then we saw the guy with the gun, and I convinced myself that it was paintball, it was a senior prank.
The first shot slammed Rorbo through the back, and as he collapsed into Kirkland's arms, a quick series of shots hit Kirkland on his left foot, right leg, and left knee. The 4th shot was a gunshot blast to the chest that finally knocked him off his feet and down to the ground.
Went out, and then this knee got hurt, and then it felt like somebody punched me in the chest.
Meanwhile, Sean Graves saw the mayhem and ran for his life. But just before he reached the cafeteria door, a second gunman aimed at his back, dropping him with a bullet that struck his spine. Kirkland yelled for his friends to help, but Rorbo was silent on the sidewalk while Graves screamed that his legs didn't work. And as his eyes began to dim, he saw a figure standing by him. He stretched out his hand asking for help. But sadly, that was one of the shooters, who ironically said that he was gonna help before he shot Kirkland for the 5th time in his face. With 4 guns, 67 bombs, and 2 hearts full of hate, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold officially began the Columbine shooting, which lasted close to 4 hours. We've already gone over the details, so let's narrow down to Lance Kirkland's POV that day. Now, as Harris and Klebold continued their malicious killing spree, Kirkland remained outside, exhaling blood with
By the way, chat, I'm gonna check the chat at the end of the stream. How about that?
every breath. His friend Rorbo was dead, and Graves was paralyzed. On the stairs above him, next to 2 black duffel bags stuffed with guns, ammo, and bombs, Harrison Klebold kept spraying bullets at teenagers eating outside. Then Klebold hurled a pipe bomb onto the school's roof, causing the ground to shake. Rachel Scott and a transfer student, Richard Castaldo, were both caught up in the gunfire. Castaldo was hit in his left arm, one in the right, and at least 3 others piercing his lungs, kidney, and vertebrae. But by some miracle, he remained conscious and played dead for his attackers to move away. Now, after a while, Kirkland noticed people were moving around him once again. But I mean, the last time he asked for help, he got shot. Now, for the second time that day, he would turn his head and say, "Help." This time it worked. A paramedic named Monty Fleming grabbed Kirkland and laid him in the ambulance on top of Graves' dead body. He survived, and for about 2 years after, he underwent 35 surgeries. It was costing him a ton of money, and the moment he realized he couldn't finance his medical treatment anymore, he stopped.
In 2001, where I found out that I was going to be a dad.
Subsequently, after a wrong business investment that occurred in 2015,
Gotta get an ad blocker, man.
I know, but I've been let down by so many ad blockers before. This one's different. Pie isn't just an
Kirkland started drinking.
With all the stress, with all the extra stress from trying to run the business and being a single father, and it just kind of broke me, and I drank more and more and more.
And although he never realized it, most of his actions were caused by the trauma of that incident.
Noticing my symptoms and being able to deal with them, that gives me hope and for a brighter future.
On the way, we saw bodies in the hallways, and
let me check. My stream's still running. Okay. So literally, my OBS, I made it invisible.
doors blown off the hinges, and we just ran out of the school, out of the parking lot.
December 14th, 2012. A mass shooting occurs at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newton, Connecticut, where the perpetrator, 20-year-old Adam Lanza,
That was like 4.
shot and killed 20 people, including
Nah, look at his bowl cut. Get up.
20 minors and 6 adult staff. For context here, Adam lived in Newtown with his 52-year-old mother, Nancy
Whoa.
Lanza, shot and killed 20 people.
Wait.
Lived in Newtown with
That's a nice house. Why would you want to do that? That's a nice house. Bro. That's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 window house. Six bedroom house. No, wait, 7. If you count the basement.
his 52-year-old mother, Nancy Lanza, a gun enthusiast who kept many firearms around their home. Now in school, Adam frequently struggled with anxiety and hated the crowded classrooms. He started getting upset in middle school because of frequent classroom changes during the day. The movement and noise were too stimulating, and they made him anxious. At one point, his anxiety was so intense that his mother had to take him to the ER at Danbury Hospital. Adam was later transferred to a different school, but at age 14, he returned to Newtown High School. Now, during this time, things got worse, and his parents soon realized he wasn't cut out to be in public schools. So, with a mixture of homeschooling and a few online classes, Adam was able to obtain a high school diploma. Now here's where the twist comes in. During his time being homeschooled, Adam was isolated in his room all alone, playing video games and watching documentaries about school shooters. This daily routine created some type of weird fascination in his mind. And after his mom announced her plan to move out of Newtown, Adam put into motion his plan to not only kill his mom, but carry out one of the deadly...
Whoa. Your mom put you in this world. Feeds you. Washes dishes for you. Washes clothes. Buys you things. And you're gonna do that? The freak, man.
deadliest school shootings in America. Around 9:30 a.m. on December 14th,
Like at the end of this one, I'm gonna probably stop stream.
2012, Adam fired gunshots at his mother, killing her while she was still in bed with her PJs on. From there, he took her rifle and 10 magazines of 30 rounds each and headed to Sandy Hook.
We were reading a book in the front of the classroom before it happened.
According to one Emma Ahrens, she personally knew Adam Lanza, and on the morning of the incident, they both spoke while he paid a visit to her class. But after a few minutes, he walked out, and when he came back, he told her this.
At the front of the classroom, and he came in and stood right next to me. He told me and a couple other people to run, and we did. We ran out of the classroom, out of the school.
And as she ran, what she saw was preposterous, to say the least. And keep in mind that these guys were literally minors, so by their own understanding, they knew little to nothing about what was going on. One survivor even said all he could vividly remember was his mom crying over what had happened.
I didn't know what had happened at the time. I didn't understand, the gravity of the whole thing, but I knew my mom was crying. My mom was so scared that, something horrible had happened. I've never seen it like that before, and I never have since. I hope I never do, so.
After less than 10 minutes of shooting, Adam turned the gun on himself and ended his life with a shot to the head.
I looked around the corner and of the file cabinet to see the shooter.
Dylan was also a survivor of the Parkland High School shooting, but in his case, he came face to face with death. Let us explain. You see, on the day of the incident, Dylan was in class when the shooter, Nicholas Cruz, let out shots in the hallway.
With about 20 minutes of class left, I heard the first shots that I've ever heard in my life of a gun, which was the AR-15, and my class started to panic.
Dylan and his classmates quickly scrambled to hide. Some students huddle in a corner, while Dylan and about 8 others pushed a cabinet against the door to block the shooter from coming
in. Again, bro. If I'm not sponsored, I'm not watching.
However, when Dylan accidentally made eye contact, Nicholas began shooting into their classroom.
Then I looked to my right side to see one of my friends, Nick Dorette, was dead, and another girl I know, Helena Ramsey, was also dead. And then the girl next to me was skimmed with bullets a couple times.
Filled with despair, Dylan sent what he thought would be his final message ever to his parents before calling 911. He lay next to 2 other students who were badly injured, and after about 12 minutes on the phone with the cops, Dylan heard sirens around the corner. About 10 cops pull up to the classroom armed with rifles and instructed each one of them to raise their hands in the air and run as fast as they could outside the school. Yet just when it seemed safe, that was when the true horror began.
Just in the hallway, I saw 2 bodies. I had to step over the glass. There was blood, like bullets. The smell will never leave my mouth, my nose. It's just so distinct. And
just imagine what it must have been like for Dylan, being in full view of the shooter and watching as bullets flew past him, striking the very same people he had spent most of the school year with, and then getting to lay next to their dead bodies for what must have felt like eternity. I don't know about you, but that's definitely not something many can continue living with. And I say that because one student who survived the shooting, Sydney Aiello, took her own life the following year.
This is 19-year-old Sydney Aiello. Aiello was close friends with Parkland shooting victim Meadow Pollock. Aiello's mother told me that Sydney felt survivor's guilt and was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder.
19-year-old Sydney Aiello was a graduate from Stoneman Douglas and intended to go into the medical field. However, she couldn't move past the trauma of knowing her very close friend, Meadow Pollock, was a victim of the Parkland mass shooting. Luckily for Sydney that day, she wasn't in the freshman building where Nicholas carried out that shooting. But ever since, Sydney has struggled with survivor's guilt. She also struggled with attending her college classes because the thought of being in a classroom scared her. And in March 2019, Sydney shot herself in the head. It's unbelievable how the actions of one teenager bring so much pain to an entire community. But nonetheless, if you're wondering about what happened to Nicholas Cruz afterward, it might disgust you to hear that he almost got away. He had the nerve to toss his weapon, blend in with the students, escape the building, visit a fast food restaurant, stop at a mall for a soda, and casually walk away after killing 17 people and critically injuring 17 others. But eventually, he was arrested, taken to a hospital after hyperventilating, and then booked into the Broward County Jail. Subsequently, on October 20th, 2021, Cruz pled guilty to all charges and apologized for his crimes. Although the prosecution sought the death penalty, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
It's such a real thing, and it's been happening just more and more. It's like not even surprising when something like this happens anymore, and that's not how it should be, like, anywhere. And I just want people to know that, like, this needs to change. And
I made TikToks with my friends in the hallways, and all of a sudden, I thought a balloon popped. I turned, and I fell right to the ground.
That obviously wasn't an interview, but
so chat, we're gonna stop right here. We're gonna stream again tomorrow at about 1 o'clock CST. So yeah. So if I'm not on at 1 p.m. CST, either DM me on Discord or spam DM me on like the server or something. Check what chat said. If there's no chat, I don't doubt it. I have 134 subscribers. One watching now on like the server or something. Check what chat said. If there's no chat, I don't doubt it. I have 134 subscribers. So yeah, I'll be on again like 1 p.m. CST. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. See you. I'm actually kind of tired. By the way, here's the code for tomorrow. GYXVI.